statements and opinions made on the following program are not necessarily those of this station or its affiliates.
Hello and welcome to the Susanne Livingston Show, the show that's a beacon of truth in a world of lies. I'm your co-host, Craig Rowland. Hello, Suzanne.
Hi, Craig. I'm so happy to be here again.
Yeah. Well, what's your topic today?
Today, we're going to talk about hemp, or also known as cannabis.
Or also known as marijuana.
Yeah, well, we don't like to use that word, but I will address that a little later after we talk about the history of hemp.
All right. So, can you tell us something about the history of hemp?
I sure can, and it's pretty amazing, and I hope more people learn about this. It was one of the first domesticated, cultivated plant. One of the oldest relics was dated as far back as 8,000 BC, and that was hemp fabric. From 1631 to the 1800s, over here in America, cannabis hemp was actually used as legal tender, and you could pay taxes with it. Now, that's pretty amazing. And then, you're not going to believe this one, Craig. This one will blow your mind. You could actually, in Virginia, from 1763 to 1767, you could actually be jailed for not growing hemp during periods of shortage. Now, how do you like that one?
Well, that's certainly a turnaround, isn't it?
It sure is. And just to show you the significance of hemp and the families that were involved with it, there are several cities and counties named after hemp. Let me give you some examples. We have Hempstead, Long Island, Hempstead County in Arkansas, Hemp Hill, North Carolina, and Hempfield, Pennsylvania. And there are many more.
Wow.
Hemp is probably one of the most versatile products and plants on the planet.
Now, you say that our ancestors grew hemp, and some founding fathers as well. Who?
That is right, and that frequently surprises people. Thomas Jefferson and George Washington both grew hemp. Benjamin Franklin actually created the first paper mill with hemp to decrease any dependence on England so that he could publish things, because hemp can make paper better than trees. We'll talk about that later. And the famous kite that did the electricity thing was a string of hemp.
Benjamin Franklin.
Yes, Benjamin Franklin. Now, Thomas Jefferson, many people know this, our original Constitution, and I do say original and organic, was written on hemp.
Is that right?
Yes, as well as the Declaration of Independence. Now, here's another one. Guess what Betsy Ross, guess what she did the first American flag on?
Let me guess. Hemp?
That's right.
Oh, wow. I'm surprised I got that.
I got another one I want you to know about, because this was an eye-opener to me. This one I did not know. I know a lot about the history of hemp, but I didn't know everything. But this one really kind of was surprising. And that was that where the Pentagon is built today, there was actually a man named Lester Dewey who cultivated hemp on Arlington Farms. How'd you like that one?
Where the Pentagon was.
Yeah, that's
Where the
right.
Pentagon is now.
Yeah, isn't that something?
Yeah. How did this versatile plant become illegal?
Oh, boy, that's a very interesting story where a whole bunch of disinformation and propaganda was put out by some key individuals who had their own pocketbooks in mind, because this plant has been used around the world. It's probably one of the most versatile plants that exists on the planet. And it's also a vegetable, by the way. But anyway, Mr. William Hearst, who was an owner of lumber industries and many newspapers, him and Mr. DuPont, who owned many of the chemical companies and the petroleum companies. All of these two men in particular were involved in a disinformation campaign or propaganda campaign known as Reefer Madness. And it was also a very racist thing because what they did was they were saying that, black people and Mexican people were smoking this and they were raping women, white women and killing people and so on and so forth. That's all a bunch of lies, okay? Mm-hmm. When their main purpose was to monopolize an industry. Mr. Hearst wanted to make paper for his newspapers and
out of his forests.
Exactly. And Mr. DuPont, of course, with being, into the petroleum and chemical industries, which is also, whenever you say chemical, you might as well say pharmaceutical because it goes right with it. Mm-hmm. And then we have, which I didn't mention, besides them guys wanting to line their pocketbooks. Then we have also what's known as some people call the medical mafia, who have been trained by the pharmaceutical companies. And then we have law enforcement agencies like your local policeman and your local sheriff who happen to make quite a bit of money because this was made illegal. And I think it's a crime against humanity, and you'll find out why as the show goes on.
So, William Hearst influenced the information about cannabis, and you kind of gave us the reason why, because he was trying to make it seem like a bad product, so he could use his lumber and so forth in order to make newspapers.
Exactly. And if you want to talk about the difference between using wood versus using paper, the best paper comes from hemp. It's stronger. It's 70% cellulose versus 30% in trees. It recycles better. Fewer chemicals are used. And get this, 1 acre of hemp, which can be cultivated 2 times a year, versus 2 to 4 acres of trees, is, that take anywhere from 10 to 20 years to grow.
Right.
So that's really bad. And also, the other thing about hemp, and all this talk about carbon dioxide and all that kind of stuff, it sequesters more than 5 times at the rate of trees.
Say that again. It does what?
It sequesters the carbon dioxide. It pulls it out of the air, okay?
Okay, don't be using big words on our audience, okay? Sequester.
No, okay, that's sequester. Okay, let's say it sucks the carbon dioxide right out of the air, okay?
There you go. That works.
At 5 times the rate of the trees.
Right. Now, you've already mentioned to us basically what Reefer Madness was all about. Was there anything else you wanted to add to that?
Well, just that, it was a horrible disinformation campaign that left the cannabis plant, which, like I said, is probably the most versatile plant on the planet, used around the world. Currently, the industrial hemp is cultivated in over 30 countries, and we have to buy our hemp from somebody else because they accepted a few states now, and they still put limitations on the amount you can grow. They don't let people do research on it. It's a form of censorship, and I hate to say this, but a lack of freedom.
Yeah. Where did the term marijuana come from?
That was part of that disinformation campaign. Instead of calling it cannabis, they named it marijuana. And marijuana was a bad name compared to cannabis because cannabis had already established itself as a very good reputation, or hemp.
So they had to create another name.
Exactly. It's kind of like a slang name. Like if your name was Teresa and you changed it to Toots. Yeah. Which one would you rather have? Okay.
What was published in 1938, Suzanne?
This was part of the problem. 1938, the Popular Mechanics published the new $1 billion crop. And do you know what crop that was?
Well, I hate to hazard a guess. Hemp?
That's right. It was hemp, because you can make just about everything from it. It is such an amazing plant. And to think that we cannot even grow it now is a crime. Everything from the hemp plant is not biodegradable. It requires less chemicals to process in any manner, shape, or form. They make so many different things from it, I'm amazed that it can even be against the law.
Well, can you list some of the products that is made from cannabis and their benefits?
I sure can. Let's talk about cotton. Cotton. How about cotton?
Okay.
Cotton works. Say, cotton kind of got the jump on hemp because when many, many years ago, before they developed all this big farm equipment, it was done by hand, and they called it decordicate. And decordicate is the outer portion of the hemp plant is the strongest portion, and it's what they make the rope and cannabis, the two kind of go together. But anyway, that was very hard to do and very labor intensive. And unfortunately, the cotton gin came out before this decorticating equipment came out. And then we had the disinformation campaign by the Hearst and the DuPonts and everybody involved in the money-making scam. So hemp took a back seat to cotton, and guess what about that? Cotton uses twice as much water to grow as hemp does. Cotton uses 1/3 to 1/2 of all of the world's pesticides. And if you remember from last week when we spoke about the GMO cotton, if your animals go out and graze on the stalks, they die. That should tell you something about that plant's toxicity. And all those toxic chemicals that are used in agriculture run down our rivers and streams and contaminate the Gulf. They contaminate. In fact, I know that coral reefs are dying because of that too. But not only that, not only is there more chemicals used in the GMO plant, which I have no use for, when the cotton itself is processed, it uses chlorine and bleach and, again, another chemical bath. And then we get this and we put it on our bodies. So, if I was to choose between a cotton product and a hemp product, I would definitely go with hemp.
Okay.
Oh,
now you mentioned cotton. Some other products?
Well, yes, but one more thing about the cotton. Hemp is 3 times stronger than cotton. Hemp is softer than cotton. And hemp has, believe it or not, antibacterial and antiseptic properties. And it won't mildew. How you like that one?
I'll be darned. So what else besides cotton?
Well, you can make just about anything with hemp. Henry Ford made a car. Inside and out. We're talking the body frame, the upholstery, the dashboard, the whole shebang. They all was made out of hemp. And they said, and nobody believed them, they said, that is stronger than steel. And goes, okay, how can that possibly be stronger than steel? Well, I saw the video of Mr. Ford and some of his cohorts taking a hammer, a big old hammer, and pounding on the hemp car and not even so much as making a dent. We can make food. We won't even go into food products, but let me list some of the products that can be made with hemp, okay? Industrial textiles, twine, rope, nets, canvas, tarps, carpets, geotextiles, agrofiber composites. We'll talk about the composites. That's a whole nother story. Caulking, brake and clutch linings. I don't know much about that, but that's an interesting one. Consumer textiles. You see a few of these on the market, but most of them, unfortunately, have to come from somewhere else, except now we will see more coming from the states where it's totally legal. But apparel, diapers, fabrics, handbags, denim, shoes, fine fabrics. Of course, paper. We talked about the paper, cardboard. They can even make paint and building materials. Now, but the building materials, let's talk about that just for a minute. Have you ever heard of hempcrete?
No.
Hempcrete is the organic version of concrete. And concrete, just like the cotton and the paper, requires more chemicals. And there are many advantages to hempcrete. It doesn't mold. It has sustainable uses. They can build a house with it. You can make like a fiberboard with hemp that can replace plywood. You can do so many things with hemp, it never ceases to amaze me. A fiberglass, for example, you can use it for insulation. Now, you know how nasty fiberglass is. I don't know if you ever put any in your house anywhere, but you know it makes you all itchy and cuts you and all kinds of stuff. Well, guess what? They can make hemp insulation. You don't have to use that nasty stuff that's made from petroleum and so on and so forth. Let's see, what else is there? The food. Oh my God, we'll cover that on a whole different issue, but hemp is I would call it the most nutritious vegetable on the planet. Not only providing, your essential amino acids, but also your essential fatty acids. And we'll get back to that. Then we have industrial products such as oils, paints, varnishes, fuel. Mr. Diesel, who made the diesel engine, felt that vegetable oil was superior, and that would come from hemp as well, but since they made it illegal, what can you do? Plus, it would be biodegradable. You don't have to dig up the ground or do fracking in order to find more oil. Mm-hmm. So all around, it's a cleaner, more organic approach to everything. And you know I'm in favor of organic, Craig.
Right. Do you know what plant they planted around Chernobyl and why? See, that's the question that you wrote down here, and I worded that wrong. What did they plant around Chernobyl and why?
Chernobyl. Yeah. If you remember Chernobyl many years ago, they had a big nuclear plant problem, just like they probably not as bad as Fukushima, but I don't know if they can plant hemp in the ocean. But what they did was they planted hemp all around the Chernobyl site, because guess what? Hemp eats radiation, and it also eats up the heavy metals. And the reason and how it does that is because the plant itself has this huge root system that is just big, bulky root system. And this root system just sucks those toxic metals up and sucks the radiation up into the root system. And when it does that, it does a process that's known as remediates the soil. In other words, it cleans up the soil. Okay. And our soil's pretty dirty after something like that happens.
Well, this is interesting, the question that you've given me to ask you. How does cannabis compare to annual deaths per year compared to other mortality rates?
Oh, I'm glad you asked me that.
That must be why you wrote it down here.
Yes, I did. I did want you to ask that because I think it's very significant and people need to be aware of that. And this doesn't matter if it's cannabis indica or if it's cannabis sativa. Sativa is generally the one that has absolutely no THC, which people get all bent out of shape about because they have been misinformed. And then they also have the indica, which has THC. But because of farmers' abilities, they are able to go either way. But as far as mortality rates and annual deaths, tobacco, 435,000 people a year. die because of tobacco use. And number 2, and I wonder sometimes if this is truly number 2 anymore, a poor diet and lack of exercise. $365,000 people die per year. Alcohol, 85,000. Prescription drugs, 32,000. Motor vehicle crashes, 26,347. Homicides, 20,308. Get this one. Aspirin, 7,600. Now, I've seen figures higher than that for aspirin because people get bleeding ulcers and die from it. Peanuts. People have allergic reactions to peanuts. 100 people a die, up to 100 people die a year. Now, marijuana, I hate to use that word, but let's call it cannabis. You know how many people die from that? Absolutely zero. No death has ever been attributed to cannabis alone. None. Zero. Zilch. Zip.
Okay. How long has it been used by mankind up to present day?
Oh, for thousands of years. You can go way back and you can look at history in China. You can look at history in India. You can look at all the history where the world first began and find out that they all used hemp for all kinds of these things that we're talking about now. All these uses from textiles and apparels to healing properties. There were a lot of medicinal properties. You name the affliction and you'll find in historical records that hemp or the oil from hemp was used for that purpose. The
question that comes up is that they used leeches to try to cure people too. I mean, how valid have we come to know that what they used the hemp for is valid in today's world? Do you understand what I'm saying?
Yes, I do. And that's an interesting subject, and sometimes, as gross as that may seem, I can see if someone had an iron overload, it would actually be beneficial to them. But I don't want to go there because that's too gross. But when you use the hemp today, and unfortunately they're not able to do the studies in the United States because it's been made illegal here, except again, we're going to have some states that are going to be getting this information better. But we're in other countries where they're allowed to do research, but here we are in this free country and we can't do research. Explain that one. But anyway, they are proving that we have what's known as an endocannabinoid system. And what that is that our body produces some cannabinoids, okay? But the cannabinoids that come from the hemp plant fit right into the receptor sites that we have all over our body, in our brain, in our gut, all over, that benefits us from a health standpoint.
How?
It helps to create homeostasis. For example, there's plenty of evidence now that this product is beneficial with epileptic seizures and any kind of seizure. And what happens then is you got the brain firing off kind of crazy-like. Okay? It's not doing like it should. So these cannabinoids will come in and create a homeostasis or a feedback loop in order to calm this down. Without getting real scientific and so on and so forth, those receptor sites are not getting everything that they need. You'll eat this plant and you'll get what you need.
Okay.
The cannabinoids, they identified now anywhere from 60 to 100 different cannabinoids that are only found in the hemp plant. It was as if we were made to live symbiotically with this plant.
Well, continue with the question of how does it relate to our health. I know that in our discussions, you had mentioned something about cancer.
Oh, definitely. That's a cannabinoid right there, and that's where they try to, demonize cannabis, and they say, oh, it's, it's so bad for you, especially the THC component. Well, come to find out, look up the research that Dr. Christine Sanchez did in Spain, who found that in the laboratory, you can see it, and they show it on YouTube video, where the THC cannabinoid will go in and it will eat up and destroy the cancer cell. Not only does it causes the cancer cell to kill itself. It's called apoptosis. It also prevents when stuff metastasizes. Thank you, I could say there for a minute. Anyway, it will stop that. It stops tumor growth. It's absolutely amazing, all the different therapeutic benefits of this plant. And back to the history, back before they made all of this stuff illegal, it was in 50% of the medicines that were put out by the pharmaceutical companies before they got more greedy.
Did they get high on it?
Well, that I don't know. I have no one from back then to ask. But there also is something that's known as you can get for children, for example. To be serious now, children suffer from seizures. Okay, so they wanted to, and this is where farmers again are very smart, and they don't need GMO to do it. They can grow plants and crossbreed until they have virtually little or no THC left in it, and you can give this to a child, and the CBDs that are left will still help stop the seizures.
Okay. You've used the term CBD, and I'm going to ask about that, but first, what happened around 2003?
Oh, you're going to love this one, Quig. In 2003, our lovely government patented CBDs for neurodegenerative diseases like Alzheimer's, Parkinson's, MS, among others. Okay? You go, well, wait a minute. How can this be? We have cannabis, or they like to call it marijuana now, because it confuses people, okay?
Right.
Just remember, it's the same darn thing. Okay. The cannabis that they made illegal is also listed as a Schedule I drug, which says it has no medical uses whatsoever. Well, that's hogwash, isn't it? Look at what we know now. Look at what's been kept from us. And look at what they're having to find out in other countries because they won't allow it here. It's grown in 30 other countries. Why can't we grow it here? That's baloney. People need to rise up and get this changed.
So that's what happened in 2003, is that they
the federal government patented CBDs.
How could they patent something that is not a thing?
Don't ask me that. What they do, whatever they want. That's all I can say to that. Just like the pharmaceutical companies. And let me tell you something about patents and the pharmaceutical companies. Now, many people don't know this. There are a number of plants out there that have properties that are beneficial for people in some manner, shape, or another for some disease or problem or whatever. Cannabis, I think, probably is the most widely versatile one in that area as well. But what they do is they take a plant, the active ingredient that they find in the plant, and then they take it to the laboratory, they isolate it, and they tweak it chemically. They change something on it chemically. Why do they do that? They do that because that's how they get a patent. Because you were not allowed to patent a natural thing. But that's how they do it.
I see. Is this the one that we were talking about, endocannabinoid system?
Yes, the endocannabinoid system. And this is what I tell people. Next time you go to your doctor, you ask them, do you know what the endocannabinoid system is in our bodies? And they will look at you and they'll probably say, no, what the heck are you talking about? There might be a doctor out there or two that do know, because there are some good doctors out there, but a lot of them will look at you like you're crazy or something. So you tell them, well, guess what? I want you to find out what that is, and the next time I see you, if you don't know, I'm changing my doctor.
So what you're telling us is that they don't allow research in the United States on cannabis?
They sure don't.
Wow.
They sure don't.
Why not?
Well, because they made it illegal. Because when they did this campaign of disinformation, and when they coined it all together under the name of marijuana, they knocked out all the industrial hemp as well.
Well, what doesn't make sense to me is that they experiment with a lot of things that are illegal in this country. The government can do that. The pharmaceuticals can do that. They can experiment with it. Just
like GMOs.
Yeah. Just that the general public can't have use of it, but they can do that. But so they're doing nothing to document any of this stuff? Where are we getting all this information about the values of it?
Much of the information is coming from Europe and other countries in Europe. Like I said, Dr. Christine Sanchez, who has proven that the THC cannabinoid in cannabis kills cancer cells, destroys them.
You know, this really raises a question to me, and we'll get into it in the next half. The question is, why is it that our government keeps GMOs, they protect the use of cannabis, that we can't use it, so on and so forth. Let's talk about that after we go for a break, okay?
We sure will, Craig, because that makes me mad as heck.
All right, we'll be right back.
All statements heard on this station are that of the program hosts, co-hosts, guests, and callers alone, and are not necessarily those of this station or its affiliates.
Citizens of Pahrump, this is Raider Flagman. I'm announcing the new show on this radio station, Richard Hamilton Uncensored. You'll love this show. Tune in.
Richard Hamilton Uncensored, Tuesdays at 7 p.m. and replayed on Thursdays at 7 p.m. right here on KPFF-LP, Pahrump.
Hello, this is LD, Lazy Dog Michael John. I'm going to host a show Sunday evenings at 7 p.m. called Lazy Dog's Front Porch. Why don't you come on by, crawl up on the porch, pull up a chair, and join me. We're going to have a good time. We're going to chat about this and that and everything else. We might even become interesting, and we'll just see where it goes. Sunday night, 7 p.m. on KPFF.
Hi, this is Geraldine Ahrens, producer of the program Area 91. Here is a sample of what Area 91 is all about.
I think if you're an abductee, you're a very lucky person, because you are the people they cannot do anything to, and they are abducting you to find out why.
That's Area 91, Wednesdays at 7 p.m. on KPFF Pahrump.
Hello, listeners. Want to know what talk programs are broadcast by KPFF? The KPFF Program Guide is now on our Pahrump Film Festival website. If you want to see what's coming up this week on KPFF, just go to www.PaHrumpFilmFestival.org. As programs are added or changed, so will the guide. That's www.PaHrumpFilmFestival.org for the best talk programs in Pahrump.
Mondays at 5 p.m., listen to the David Lancaster Sr. Show here on KPFF. That's right, this is David, and I'm back on 97.7 FM to chat a little and play some of our favorite tunes. And the twins are back with me, too.
Yes, folks, we're here and raring to go.
Me, music, and the twins. What else do you need to start off your week? That's 5 p.m. Mondays, with a 5 p.m. replay on Tuesdays for the David Lancaster Sr. Show on KPFF.
This is 97.7, heard in Pahrump, heard in Johnny, heard in Crystal, and heard in Mercury. Hello there, Wackenhut.
Well, we're back with Susanne and Craig.
Hi, Greg. We're back.
Yeah. So we left the question of what is, why is the United States not allowing even research? With all this information that the Europeans are coming out with, why did the United States let themselves lag behind on this?
Well, if you really want to know, darling, I would say it's because they are in bed with the people that have something to do with it, like the pharmaceutical companies, the USDA, the FDA. Everybody thinks that they're out there doing everything they can for the benefit of the people. Well, guess what? No, they're not.
Well, this cannabis question just blows my mind when I got into it. I can't believe that it serves so many purposes and works in so many instances that we don't allow it in this country, that we actually have laws against it, that the law enforcement makes millions of dollars. It costs us millions of dollars for law enforcement to guard against the marijuana coming into this country.
Even the cops, if they really knew what they were preventing people, I wonder if they'd still want to do what they are forced to do sometimes, I guess.
Well, the problem is that dissemination of this type of information is not exactly talk show stuff. It's our talk show stuff because we're the voice of freedom on this show.
You're absolutely right, Craig, because I'll tell you what, I've been on the radio before for JMO, and it was one time, and I was told I was overly aggressive or whatever, and that's because they have sponsors that don't want to hear that. They don't want people to know that kind of information.
Right.
Just like the government allows Monsanto themselves to do the research on the product that they're trying to get on the market. And I'm going, well, isn't that a conflict of interest? You're darn right it is.
Well, since I'm the general manager of KPFF, I will put in a plug for us right in here, and that is that we are the free speech radio station in this town, and you're not going to find documented information as direct and as free and as truthful as you find on this station. I guarantee you that.
And that is so true, Craig, and that's one of the reasons that I'm here, because people have the right to know. And they don't get this information from the mass media or the mainstream media, which I call the lamestream media, because they won't tell you because of the people that own and run it. They don't want this information out. They're making too many big bucks. They don't care about you. They don't care about your health. They don't care about anything that you think they do.
Right. So that's the reason that they don't allow research in the United States, is because they don't want to know.
Exactly.
Okay. What is the nutritional profile of cannabis?
Oh, my word. I remember many years ago, the first time I looked this up, I was in a state of shock. And I'm going, how can they make this illegal? If nothing else, you could eat and live off of this plant, and I mean that sincerely. It does provide all the essential amino acids. It got an ideal ratio of omega-3 and omega-6. Which is 3-to-1. Mm-hmm. It's got the protein value. It's got all the essential amino acids, and amino acids are the building blocks to protein. So it's going to be, and it provides more protein per gram or per ounce than meat or any of the other products that you think are so, protein intense. Mm-hmm. This is a very protein intense product. And very rare, I think the only one in the entire vegetable kingdom that will give you every protein that you need, or amino acids. Just remember that amino acids, when you talk amino acids, you're talking protein. And there's at least 8 or 9 of them that are absolutely considered essential. You have to get them because your body cannot make them. Same with essential fatty acids. And one of the ones that we are the lowest in is the omega-3. And hemp is loaded with it. Mm. So, and that affects so many different things. I can tell you a little bit about the omega-3 because that is a fascinating subject to me. And that is incorporated into the very membrane of your individual cells. You don't get enough of it, your cells are the membrane is kind of stiff and then, doesn't move, doesn't allow the nutrients in and the waste out. Mm. When you have enough omega-3 in your diet, and it's hard to do nowadays, it's stiff and it doesn't, you don't get rid of the toxins as fast, okay? Mm-hmm. You don't get the nutrients in the way you should. And when you get enough omega-3 in your diet, that changes. The very membrane of individual cells will change. There was a study that they did a long time ago. And they did it in Italy because it would not have been allowed here. And it is kind of nasty if you think about it because they created a heart attack in dogs. All right. Some people who are, animal rights persons would be very upset with them. But one of the things that they found, when the dog had omega-3 in its diet, it would survive the heart attack because the blood would diffuse more easily through the individual membranes of the cells to save it from having cell death, from having it totally cut off from oxygen.
Okay.
So omega-3 is an extremely important substance that we just are not getting enough of in our diet today. And guess what? This plant is full of it.
And speaking of this plant, there's different ways that this plant is used. You were mentioning some of the ways, you can smoke it, you can turn it into a paste, some of the different ways and the ways.
Yes. Let's talk about that.
Yes.
We have, and let me refer you to a man who discovered the properties. He lives in Canada. His name is Rick Simpson. He has a wonderful video out there called Run from the Cure.
Is that on YouTube?
You bet it is.
Say the name again.
Rick Simpson, Run from the Cure. And what he's talking about is the cure from white coat medicine, which uses chemotherapy and radiation. And what he means by that is he had end-stage skin cancer, I believe it was. And he cured it with cannabis oil. He redeveloped an old recipe of how to make cannabis oil that actually was used centuries ago in other countries and elsewhere, and it was just lost. But he rediscovered it, used it to treat his own cancer, cured it, and then continued making it, and people who had cancer were coming to him in droves, and he was giving it out freely.
Now, did you say that he actually had the formula on YouTube? Or not?
I believe it is on YouTube. There you will find different ways to make the oil, okay? Mm-hmm. But one of the newer things that they're doing now, and I know this is going on in Colorado, and I have a good friend over there who is making this. His name is Peter Eugene. He makes the cannabis paste. And what this is, there's two kinds. You can get the variety that has no THC, if that's a problem for you, or you can get the variety that has THC. But, if you know that cancer cells are killed by THC, you might want to think about that twice, okay? Either way, the CBDs will help you. But this paste, you only have to take just a little dab of it and put it under your tongue, or even the oil, either way. But they're thinking now is that the paste may actually be even better than just the oil. Even though the oil works on the skin cancer. Like if say you have a lesion on your hand or something, you put this paste on the lesion, and at first it may look even more nasty, but what it's doing is it's pulling it out from the deep tissue. And you just keep doing it and put a Band-Aid on it or whatever, and you keep doing it, and eventually it will totally annihilate the cancer. That's no kidding. Okay, and this information, too, it's available on the Internet, on the YouTube video. Rick Simpson. But he's not the only one. And if you want to know how this THC can actually kill cancer cells, then you need to look up Dr. Christine Sanchez, because she will tell you from a biological standpoint exactly how that happens.
Christine Sanchez, Dr. Christine Sanchez.
Yes, and she's just one of many now, but she was one of the pioneers. What else did you want to know, Greg?
Well, you have notes here. What's on your cards here? I know you're still referring to...
Well, I have some pictures of different recipes, different things that you can make from hemp. That's pretty amazing.
Yeah, talk about those. What's some of the things you've got there?
And this is a website you can get these recipes from, is hempusa.org. Go to that website and click on recipes, and you will find hemp bread, hemp cookies.
Those are standard, yeah.
hemp famous brownies. Any number of colors of different smoothies that can be made with hemp. Because now the raw version, if you're using the raw version, unless it's baked, the THC won't even be active, okay?
Right.
So, that's something to remember if you're still brainwashed. We got to rewash your brain now.
So the cannabis has to be heated to a certain temperature before it releases what?
Before the THC component becomes psychoactive.
So, in other words, the ones that get you high.
The ones that get you high. But I tell you what, it's also the ones that kill cancer. So
you've got to heat it
Yes, but you can learn how to make it yourself. And see, this is one of the reasons why the pharmaceutical industry don't want you to know how to do this.
Yeah.
I mean, if you could grow their own plant in your backyard or in your house, wherever, and make a medicine out of it, you think they like that?
They don't want to have you have anything to do with that.
That's right. They are in the business to make money, and like I said, what they do is they tweak it chemically, anything, no matter what it is, in order to get a patent on it, and that concerns me. That concerns me a great deal, because when you tweak something chemically, the body is used to natural things, okay? Some of these horrible, horrendous side effects that you hear them go list when they advertise these drugs on the TV.
My God, can you believe what you listen to? Every time I see an advertisement for a drug that they're suggesting you tell your doctor you want, there's death included in a lot of them.
Yeah, and they don't even... It just amazes me. I have to go, why would you take this, people?
Yeah. And the concept is that if they report all of that, then they don't have any responsibility if you die from it.
Exactly, just like the GMOs.
Yeah.
They don't want you to be. They don't want it to be labeled because they can trace it back. Okay,
right.
And we have to worry about Mr. Cannabis being GMO too.
Oh, my God.
Because in fact, they do have some type of marinol or something like that. And you know what? If you get a pharmaceutical version of cannabis, the chances are very good that it's been tweaked chemically, and you're just not going to get the same results.
Yeah.
You will not. Your body will not recognize it in the same manner.
Well, what about... Now, we don't know that the stuff that as the cannabis houses begin to operate here in our town, which is, I don't think that's happened yet. They're still working on getting the
dispensary for medical.
Yeah. Are they
marijuana.
Dispensing? I don't know.
See, they still call it marijuana. I call it cannabis. Let's get rid of that stupid marijuana.
I don't think that the GMOs have got involved in that.
Well, I hope not. And, we may have to have a follow-up and invite the new guy who's running that to make sure that he knows
his product.
Yeah, know your product and what you're getting, because I heard that in Colorado even, there's a couple growers out there that are using GMO, and I'm going, oh no, they're going to ruin the plant. Yeah. They're going to ruin the therapeutic benefits just like they ruin everything else.
Right.
And there's no reason to GMO such a thing anyway, because, it has, the way the cannabis plant grows, it keeps it from weeds aren't a problem because it creates such a canopy of leaves that the weeds on the ground can't grow because it's not getting any sunlight.
Right.
Okay, so it's stupid to even think about GMO in it, but they'll do it because they want a monopoly on it because they know there's a lot of money involved in it. But we need to, as a people, get ourselves informed and not let this happen.
Yeah, I agree.
Let's see. Let me think if there's anything else that I can tell you. One other thing that you might find interesting that I forgot to mention when we were talking about the historical value of hemp.
Yes.
Because people need to know this. This used to be perfectly legal to grow many years ago before the big rich guys took over and decided, you can't grow it. We want you to take what we give you and you don't get any choice anymore.
Mm-hmm.
In the U.S. Census in 1850, there were 8,327 hemp plantations. Each plantation was a minimum of a 2,000-acre farm. And in 1942, just before the war, World War II, the U.S. government distributed 400,000 pounds of cannabis seeds to American farmers who produced 42,000 tons of hemp for the war effort. And farmers were required to watch the film Hemp for Victory. Now, is that crazy or what? 1 minute, it's the most wonderful thing you can have, and the next minute, it's against the law, and they're arresting you and taking you to jail for it. Well, that's just criminal. Crimes against humanity. And once again, I want to say this one more time, and we can wrap it up, Craig, and that is, this plant could save the planet, and I mean that sincerely. And the reason I mean that is not only does it clean up pollution and radiation and heavy metals, which were being dumped on us all the time, it also can be used as a food source that's easy to grow in these third world countries that also have it against the law. And here we have little kids, you see them with the bloated bellies, starving to death because there isn't enough food. And we have a means to do it and a means to feed them. And it makes me angry, Craig. It really does.
Well, to wrap it up, I would add that it also serves for medicinal purposes.
Of course. Oh, my God. It's unbelievable, the medicinal properties that it has. And this is coming out. And even if they won't let us do it here in the United States, unless they deny us access to the Internet, which they better not do that.
Oh, they're working on that.
Yeah. Well, you know what? They can talk all they want. This is not a free country anymore. What's free? Tell me that. You got to have a license to fish. You got to have a license for this, a license for that. They won't let you collect rainwater, for heaven's sakes. Can you believe that one, Craig?
I know that.
You can't grow stuff. I mean, you can't grow a plant that could feed you, that could provide the medicine for you, that you could actually make the medicine yourself. And if you don't believe this, I want you to do some research and investigation, because if you just criticize without even knowing the truth or looking into truth, then I don't even want to hear you, okay?
Now, don't start insulting our public, you know.
Well, you know what? I'm not trying to insult anybody.
No, I understand. Susanne is very adamant about what she's talking about. She's very knowledgeable, and she's very out front and spoken out. So, you know, don't take offense, folks.
Oh, please don't take offense. I don't mean any offense. I want to help you. That's what the problem is. And I know the information is out there. You don't have to believe me. You can go on the Internet. You can get this information yourself. That is one of the biggest libraries around, and you need to utilize it while it's still available and hopefully stays available.
Yes. All right. Well, we're going to wrap it up. We thank you very much for listening. This has been the Susanne Livingston Show, and the show that's a beacon of truth in a world of lies. And thank you for listening.
Statements and opinions made on the preceding program are not necessarily those of this station or its affiliates.